It's snowing, the wind's blowing about 40 miles an hour. I thought I'd do a tying session. So I'm tying some black caddis parachute, CDC parachute with the delta wing. This fly I tied in several different iterations. Last winter, fished them this year. Really good fly in the evening for spent black caddis. Good searching fly, and a little bit of a wild card. If you have a fish rising and you can't figure out what it's eating, you think it's eating Hendrickson spinners. I did fool a nice trout on that fly this year that I couldn't get on sort of standard fare. Like I said, I tried tying this in a couple different ways. This was the one that worked the best. It's a little bulkier than the other flies I was fishing. Holds up better, floats better, and that bulkiness makes it a better searching fly. The back, I'm just using this sort of insect green, caddis green foam, 2 or 3 millimeter, and I'm just cutting off a little tiny sliver like that. You can pluck it off and tying it off the back. Foam underneath, you'll see foam underneath dubbing and stuff like it's gonna make the fly float better. I don't think it really does. I think once you compress the stuff, you're kind of out of luck. I'm using gray turkey quills because the Hemingway caddis is my all-time favorite black caddis. Maybe this one day will be my favorite, but right now the Hemingway is such a great fly, and it's really not that black. The flies, when I look at them, look gray, so that's what I focus on when I tie them, is like a dark gray to get that effect. Even if you're using like an Adams gray fly like I am, is I'll put black dubbing underneath. You can see I'm not worried about compressing the foam right now, because like I said, the more you compress it, the more I think it just makes the fly sink rather than keep it floating. So I am going to go through and just one wrap over the other. Try to get as much of that green blocked off as I can, but I'm not too focused on really squeezing it down like I normally would to create a solid foundation for the fly. I do want it to be bulky. I want there to be a little air in that foam still to float it. And I'm gonna leave, so the fly doesn't twist, I'm gonna leave a good chunk here up front for the wing and stuff to float and be solidly secured to the hook shank. All right, so we're gonna wrap the biot real gentle, because you break it now, you gotta go all the way back. You may wanna use hackle pliers here. I just don't use hackle pliers very often. I don't know, every time I do use them, I love them, and then I just leave them back in the bin. All right, so like I said, it's a pretty nifty looking body, I think. This fly is stout enough, I'm gonna clip a little of that egg sac off, stout enough to float a nymph, which, you know, to me makes it doubly useful. It's nice when you have flies that can float a dropper, especially during caddis. All right, so a couple of that Polish CDC feathers, and I'm gonna put them, I put them one on top of the other. I sort of brush forward as much of the feathers as I can. I tie them in too long with 2 wraps. The hard part is getting the wraps up far enough, and then when you pull them, they start to spread out. Sometimes better than others. That was kind of a weak spread there, but I'll get it. All right. Okay, now we have still a little too much, just a little more twist or a little more pull. And then I'm gonna separate the feathers into 2 and run my thread up between them. Because we are doing, I mean, this, if you've ever fished spent caddis, they don't happen a lot, but man, if you don't have a spent caddis, that's it. So, a lot of my flies now, the Awesome, which is a deer fly, and my stone flies, like that are based off some traditional ensemble flies like the Marion Birchstone or the Game Warden. And my caddis, I'm doing the delta wings. I just think fish, I mean, when you see delta wings on a housefly, you instantly know it's a fly. I think the same thing happens for fish. You're like, oh, that's something real. I use either EP trigger point fibers or parapost most of the time, and I've split one parapost strand into two. And I always do the parapost the same way, which is I'm going to tie it on with, and that trick I'll start now because it's early in the fall, but that pinch wrap where I bring the thread up, pinch it between my thumb and index finger, go all the way around the hook, man, that makes life, that's the most critical tying technique there is, I think. All right, wings up, wrap around it. You'll see that every time I go, I pull it tight, and that really holds the thread and keeps you from having to use some weird parachute tool or something, which, you know, parachute tools are fine. If that makes your parachutes better, then it's probably worth the time. But that holding it tight really helps me. All right, now I got medium done saddle hackle. I splay the fibers out, so I pull down, pull the fibers out. Either side of the little spine thing is exposed. I'm going to thread that through the back of that wing, that post, like that. And then I put just a little teeny bit of dubbing. Remember, you can't use too little dubbing because you can always add more. And I just want a little spot of black up at the head, so I know that it's supposed to be a black caddis. All right, now, wrapping counterclockwise. This fly does not take a lot of wraps, and you can really ruin it if you do. That's just 3 good ones with good hackle. Now, I've caught a little bit of my CDC there. I'm gonna go back, and I'm gonna just there we go. And then one time around the eye. Good. Let it hang. Clip. And then I'll go in. You can use a 1/2-inch tool, or you can walk the fine line of using a whip finish on a parachute. I do tend to glue these flies. I'm not going to do it right now, but I flip them over and glue right here, and then I drop one right there. So I use really thin glue so that it penetrates the materials. And that's that super sweet little spent black caddis with the green egg sac. It's a nice fly. I'm not ready to start thinking about spring yet. I kind of like the winter, but it sure does feel good to be tying. There's like snow pelting the windows in here. All right, have a good night.